Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? And shout out to all my Cerebralites. It's me, the Cerebral Diva, back with another episode of In the Loop. And in today's episode of In the Loop, we're going to be talking about Jo Shelby and Terrence Crutcher and Jo Shelby's recent acquittal. Before we dive into the video, I want to preface it by saying I know a lot of people who come to my channel come here expecting to see videos about the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Basketball Wives, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, whatever I happen to be, whatever reality show I happen to be into at the moment. And I love those shows. I'm a reality television junkie, but my true passion, my true calling is social activism. I'm just a very empathetic and a very passionate person, so I feel very connected to any minority group that I feel is being marginalized in any way, shape, or form. So that's really the impetus or the catalyst for me to begin this channel. So if you come here and you see videos about me talking about feminism and, Black Lives Matter or police brutality or LGBT rights or, Hispanics and what have you, just know that those are things that I'm truly passionate about. Everything else is really superfluous. So with that being said, we're going to talk about Jo Shelby. This article, I'm going to read to you guys from an article that came across my timeline this morning. And this article comes courtesy of NPR. And for those of you who are not familiar with that acronym, that is National Public Radio. One of my favorite things to listen to. So let's dive right into this article. It begins with, a jury has acquitted Tulsa police officer Jo Shelby, who killed an unarmed motorist, Terrence Crutcher, in an encounter that was captured on video by a police helicopter last September. The case sparked criticisms that Shelby, who was white, overreacted when she shot Crutcher, who was black. Okay? Now, for those of you who are unable to sort of keep these incidences of police brutality in any sort of sequence, this is the case where there is a helicopter that's hovering several thousand feet above the actual altercation, and we hear the helicopter pilot asserting that this is a bad dude. It's that video, so hopefully that will give you some sort of a recall in terms of what we're talking about. The article continues. The verdict came hours after the jury was sent to deliberate Wednesday. It devastated Crutcher's family, who say they're outraged by the outcome. Shelby had been charged with first-degree manslaughter days after the killing. Let it be known, I believe that in my heart Betty Shelby got away with murder, and I don't know what was in the mind of that jury, Crutcher's father Joseph told reporters. The family is also calling for the police department to be reformed. During the trial, Crutcher's twin sister Tiffany said it is clear that the officers are recovering for Shelby. She also said that in the video of the shooting, the officers appeared to be more concerned with Shelby than for Crutcher as he lay there wounded. Prosecutors said Shelby acted out of fear when she shot Terrence Crutcher on September 16th. KWGS reports from Tulsa. Crutcher walked away from Shelby with his hands up instead of following orders to stop and get on the ground. Shelby's attorneys argue she believed that Crutcher was going to get a gun and she had to stop the threat. Okay. It also says that at least 4 of the 12 jurors were crying as they left the courtroom, and they did not look at either family. The jury was comprised of 8 women and 4 men and included 3 African Americans. First of all, why don't they even waste taxpayer dollars at this point putting these officers on trial? Why not just tell us from the onset that they're not going to jail, they're not going to be convicted, and let's just save that money, because at this point it's almost insult to injury. We all knew what the outcome was going to be. At least I did. At this point, if an officer is convicted, it's like it would be like the 7th sign to me, because it just does not happen. I mean, the infraction has to be so egregious. Like she would have to be screaming N-word, N-word, N-word as she's shooting to be convicted. And even in those cases, they would probably say that she was within her right for whatever reason. So one of the things that frustrates me is that this whole panic defense, that she was afraid for her life, that she was in fear. If you're doing a job and you're in fear, now you know by virtue of being a police officer what element of society that you're going to be running into. the criminal element, and possibly those who are mentally ill in some cases, which I believe was asserted by Mr. Crutcher's family, that he was suffering from some form of mental illness. If you're in that much, in that great of fear, then become a Walmart greeter. Walk dogs. Become a school bus driver. Make crafts and sell them on Etsy. Do something that is less confrontational and less of a threat to us as a society. If you don't feel comfortable doing your job to the point that you have to shoot a man in his back, to me that speaks to your ineptitude. It's so frustrating to see case after case after case. And then they talk about really quick, putting body cameras on police officers. For what? For what? Video footage has no impact on the outcome whatsoever. So why are we going to put body cams on these police officers if ultimately the outcome is going to be different? Now, if we start seeing a shift in terms of some of these officers actually being held accountable for the things that they've done, then great. Let's get body cams out there. And also, I do want to say this. Shout out to all the good police officers, because sometimes when you talk about these subjects, people seem to think that, you're anti-police, and that's definitely not the case. I'm talking about bad police. I'm talking about rogue police. I'm talking about racist police. I'm talking about bigoted police. I'm talking about police who are sort of corrupted by power, because I don't even think that police brutality is a black versus white issue, because sometimes black police officers can be worse than their white contemporaries. They can be the absolute worst, because in a lot of cases, their actions are fueled by trying to prove to their white contemporaries that look how unbiased I am, that I'm going to be even more forceful, more aggressive when I encounter someone black, to prove to you that I'm not showing a bias in any way, shape, or form. So in a lot of cases, the black officers can be worse, than their white contemporaries. So I don't think that it's necessarily a race issue. I really think that it comes down to a power issue. Power corrupts. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. People in power have a tendency to wield it in a way that is used to subjugate and oppress. So it's so frustrating when you see these case after case after case of brutality and nothing happens. Even the case of like Oscar Grant and Fruitvale Station. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a fantastic movie. You should definitely check that out. I want to find out who these black jurors were, and I want to gift each one of them the miseducation of a Negro, so maybe they can become more enlightened and make better choices and better decisions moving forward. But there's no possible way that any person of color should have been on that jury, and it at the very least should have been a hung jury. But there's no way that this woman should have walked away. This woman, being Betty Jo Shelby, should have walked away completely unscathed and not being impugned in some way, shape, or form. Not being punished, in some way, shape, or form. But this is what happens on a regular basis. This is what we have to live with. This is what we have to accept as people of color in this society. And I know that what I'm going to say might seem slightly inflammatory, but when I think about ISIS, when I think about the radicalization of young African American men, which we see in a lot of cases when you see those who sometimes are contemplating joining ISIS, a lot of times it's young African American men. These are the cases that radicalize them. It's not ISIS. It's stuff like this. When it happens on the continuum over and over and over, you begin to create a group of people who feel disenfranchised, a group of people who feel like they have to do something to feel like they have more power and control than that which they've been given. I don't know, you guys. I just think it's sad all the way around. Shout out to the Crutcher family. Hopefully, at the very least, they will get some sort of monetary compensation in this particular instance. But I don't know. I mean, it's just one more person who is deceased who doesn't have to be. I mean, you mean to tell me that you can't use a non-lethal method he couldn't have been tased. He couldn't have been, they couldn't have used rubber bullets. Like, whatever you needed to do to subdue him, there were other options at her disposal, especially considering the fact that he was walking away from her. So anyhow, you guys, that's it for this episode of In the Loop. Make sure you comment. I definitely want to hear your feelings about this particular subject. I hate when I make these videos because every time I press stop and I move on, all sorts of thoughts just run through my head. Oh, I meant to say this. I should have said this. I forgot to say that. So hopefully you guys will pick up the slack for me. And a lot of the things that I forgot to mention, you'll do that work for me. Yeah, so remember to like, comment, subscribe, and please share, and please comment. I definitely want to hear from you guys. What else is there? Oh, follow me across all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. And as always, in closing, you guys, remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. It's me, the Cerebral Diva, and I will talk to you guys again soon.